Welcome, everybody. I'll just give it a couple more seconds to let people come in from the waiting room and orientate themselves. We are really excited to have so many people with us for the second of today's launch events for this exciting new program, looking at global lessons on greening school grounds and outdoor learning. My name is Dominic Register, and on behalf of myself and my colleague Jennifer Dunn from Salzburg Global Seminar, we're really delighted to welcome you to this launch event. This launch event is starting what we hope will be a really exciting and important program that we're doing in partnership with Children and Nature Network, with the International School Grounds Alliance, with Nature for All, and with the National League of Cities. The purpose of today's event is first of all to introduce the project to all of you who all have expertise and insight and will be important stakeholders for this work moving forward, and to try and leverage the collective intelligence of everybody who is on this call to help us critique and refine the program that we have outlined for next year so that we can make it better and stronger and more effective, and then to talk about ways in which we really hope you all can be involved in that work moving forward. We're going to have two brilliant case studies showcasing the potential of what green school grounds can achieve in different contexts, one from Chile and one from Canada, that we'll hear from shortly, and there'll be a chance for a Q&A with the two presenters as well. And in a second, I'm going to hand over to my friend and colleague, Jamie Zaplatosh, who's the Vice President for Green Schoolyards at Children and Nature Network, and has really been the principal architect and leader for this whole program initiative, this whole new project. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat on Zoom. We would love to hear where you're all from. If when Jamie or any of the other presenters are speaking, it reminds you of research or articles or podcasts that you've heard or things that you have found useful in shaping your understanding and insight into the advocacy and importance of green school grounds, then please feel free to share those links in the chat. We would love to build up a resource bank that we can make widely available with everyone who's been part of this program, part of this event, and part of the one this morning. Equally, when people are talking, feel free to post questions or comments on what is being said and engage with one another in the chat. We would like this to be a very interactive session, and there will be time in the second half of the program where we would invite you all to unmute and contribute to the discussion that way. So, once again, on behalf of Salzburg Global, we're delighted that you could all be with us. And I would now like to hand over to Jamie, who's going to talk a bit more about the genesis of the program and where it came from.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is our second session of the launch of Global Lessons for Greening School Grounds and Outdoor Learning. And we're really excited for you all to be here with us today. And I wanted to give a recognition to our partners, Salzburg Global Seminar, International School Grounds Alliance, and IUCN Nature for All for helping us build and launch this project, and will be main collaborators as we move forward through the next year, which you'll hear more about shortly. So I'm with the Children in Nature Network, and the Children in Nature Network really believes that nature has the power to make children healthier, happier, and smarter, and school grounds are an incredible way for this all to happen. Next slide, please. Over the past several generations, childhood has moved indoors, and there's so much technologically advancing, but at the same time, we're seeing a really big rise in depression and anxiety for all age levels, but particularly concerning is for children that we're seeing that as well. In the US, the National Institute of Health noted that even before the pandemic, 1 out of every 4 children had experienced some kind of major mental disorder within the last 5 years. And as a mother of a 12-year-old girl, this really, really worries me. What is her life going to be like? We have so much at stake with the current generations with this, and ultimately the entire health and well-being of the world is at stake. Next slide. So this work is also personal to me because when I grew up with a single father on the south side of Chicago, and things were not always easy. Yet what you see on this screen, while it might not be the most nature-rich picture, is what I had as my view out my window. So I was able to go and play in this space and also just look out in this space. And when things were stressful, it provided me calm. And not everyone has the opportunity to have a green space as big as the one I had across the street from me, but they do typically have schools nearby. And so this work is really personal to me. I think about how schools really are able to play this critical role in the development and health of children and communities, and helping to build their physical and mental health, as well as personal and community resilience. Next slide, please. And thanks to work of many organizations from around the globe, school grounds are changing for the better, from Canada to Asia, and these are pictures from Berlin. We've seen and heard of many innovative and inspiring stories that harness the power of school grounds to build climate resilience, at the same time allowing students to develop a strong personal connection to nature. And funding from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is allowing for us this opportunity to learn about scalable strategies on greening school grounds from around the world. In the next few slides, Jen, you can just kind of roll through whenever you'd like. So what if, with the resources and knowledge of these organizations, that we catalyzed a movement that could give the opportunity for every child to experience time in nature? What if we harness the power of school grounds to build stronger cities that could support and meet the needs of all members of the community? Just last week, leaders from around the world gathered in Glasgow to work together to combat climate change. What if we could all do the same, come together and ensure that nature is embedded in children's and youth's everyday life? And what a better place. Well, now you'll just have to go backwards and scrolling. Thank you. What a better place. And this is actually Heidi's work in West Vancouver. That was that last slide there. We'll hear about more momentarily. But what a better place to demonstrate leadership and model to students climate conscious and environmentally friendly practices than at schools. We know that taking children outside to learn and play or just be in nature can improve children's academic performance, focus and behavior, and inspires a love of learning. And expanding outdoor learning opportunities can help students and the environment thrive. We know that a growing body of research shows that playing and learning in nature as a child can inspire a lifelong passion for protecting the environment. And so we're really thrilled today to invite you to be part of this process, where collectively we will learn about strategies from all over the world on how to increase access to nature for children in schools for a healthier, cleaner, and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jamie. I think, Jamie highlighted there some of the really important advocacy arguments for green school grounds, some of the reasons why they're so important around children's connection with nature, around well-being, around the learning outcomes. We're going to hear now two really brilliant case studies. First of all, from Heidi Campbell, who's a senior program manager and senior designer with Evergreen in Canada, and then from Angela Ibanez, who's the founder and executive director of an NGO in Chile called Patio Vivo. So while they're both speaking, if you have questions for either of them, please feel free to put the questions in the chat. And depending on how time goes, there may be time for Heidi and Angela to address those questions directly. Otherwise, I'd ask them both if they wouldn't mind responding in the chat at a later point in the program today. So Heidi, first of all, it gives me an enormous pleasure to welcome you to the stage for this. Really excited to hear your presentation, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Dominic, and thank you, Jamie. Very inspiring, and so happy to be here. I'm going to try very hard to stay on task here because it's a very short and brief moment that I get to talk to you about Climate Ready Schools. So let me try and share my screen and just give me a minute. Okay, can you see that? I see people nodding. Good. So is it looking good? Okay, great. Okay. So I'm going to share with you a little case study. Well, it's actually pretty profound in my world. This is our Climate Ready Schools pilot project that I'm going to share with you. And just let me see if I can. Oh, great. Okay, brilliant. So I'll give you a little backgrounder on it, and I'll try to be brief but concise. So what is a Climate Ready School anyway? And where did it come from? So I put this tag across because I don't want you to read this, because I'm going to read something to you that I prepared. So just enjoy the image of the child on the right. So the Climate Ready Schools builds on Evergreen's 25-year legacy of transforming school grounds across the country, so that's Canada, into areas of green learning and community gathering. The project aims to improve the overall design, management, and educational use of schools and school grounds through mitigating flood risk, adapting to climate change, and serving the school and surrounding community during and outside of school hours. Led by Evergreen and generously funded by key supporters, this program brings best practice from around the world and combines them with the lessons and relationships built through the transformation of over 6,000 Canadian schools, impacting over 1 million students. The project embeds our unique child-friendly participatory design process to inform the redevelopment of the schools and school grounds. By using a participatory design process, the entire school community champions the project and creates a unique solution tailored to each community. So each project will adapt to the changing climate through managing stormwater on site and moderating temperature and wind speeds, nurture child development physically, intellectually, cognitively, and socially, support a significant increase in outdoor play and learning, and serve the community by adding value outside of school hours. Here's our Evergreen design team, which includes Birgit Teichmann. She's our Berlin lead landscape architect, and Jamie showed some of her work in her presentation. We have a Canadian landscape architect who is helping to translate a lot of German possibility and opportunity into the Canadian context and standards. Myself and Cam Collier, who many of you may know, he's a senior advisor and now has his own consulting firm. So these are some of the design principles that are really driving this work. So reflecting the community, of course, through our participatory process, using the site's potential. So always looking at the assets that you have already and building off those, respecting the ecology of the landscape. That is just a given. When you say you're a climate ready school, you have to think about ecology and all the other creatures and living things that are a part of the space. Creating a welcoming space. This is really aiming at social inclusion and looking at all the different users of the space and providing something for all of them. And emphasizing a low-tech approach. So not really getting too technical, but trying to really work with the landscape and bring forward some very basic kinds of modifications that help to deliver that climate resiliency. So here's some of the components. We had a very in-depth school process, selection process. We have an evaluative framework. Of course, we're going through a master plan process and implementation, public engagement, very central, board guidelines that are oriented towards climate resiliency. Obviously, teacher professional development and toolkits. We're doing a video case study and a written case study, and some professional development for design professionals and also school facilities and managers. So we're in the midst of it all. This is our evaluative framework. We're using a triple bottom line cost benefit analysis. I can send you more information on this. Behavior mapping, many of you are familiar with this. And a canopy cover analysis and a biotope area factor analysis, which is right out of Berlin. And I can't spend any time on it. So I'm going to send you some links so you can check it out. So the school selection process was very extensive using these kind of pillars: leadership, of course, a supportive principal and receptive school community. Social needs, we're looking at the population, demographics, and the potential for the community to use the space outside of hours. And of course, the environmental, like we were looking for a very degraded site that really needed support. So this is our school, Irma Coulson, in Milton, Ontario, and amazing, huge population, 1,100 children. So big school, JK to 8. Here's the Google map, I guess, or the, you know, that oversight of the site. And you can see it's a very typical North American, I would say, okay, typical Canadian site, where it's just like, oh, you know, barren landscape, and lots of portables because the building couldn't support all the students. So here's what it looks like when you're on the ground, a little bit like an army barrack. And then you've got this massive expanse of grass, nothing to play on, nothing to interact with, except the grass. I guess, you know, there's something there with soccer and those kind of games. But then they did try to put in a garden. And so you can see at the left, lots of drainage issues on this school ground. So enter Birgit Teichmann and her approach. And I really want to sing her praises here. She's done so much good work around the world, and now she's working with us. So we feel really fortunate. She applies the sponge school ground strategy, which sees the school being more heat adaptive and water sensitive, unsealing the surfaces, adding more green. We went through an extensive site analysis with her and our Canadian landscape architect, and all the students, teachers, parents had their say. And here's how I'll just give you a brief moment here with her layering. So she starts with a green frame and she looks at all of these conditions and she starts to build from there. And she has, obviously circulation is a priority, and thinking about accessibility and also asphalt removal. How can we unseal the site and make it more permeable? And in our community engagement, which was a key focus area, of course, with our participatory design, the school became quite a champion, and they allowed all of us to be engaged in their website. So their school website, you can actually go there and see all the work that was done. They put forward a community survey. We had scheduled fireside chats, morning, noon, and night. Of course, we had to pivot because of COVID. So we trained up a bunch of teachers, and they did a lot of the work with the students. And we had a series of podcasts, which you'll be able to hear too. Student engagement at the center. And the teachers were using all these novel ways to get students' perspectives and priorities. And here is the big vision that happened over several months. You know, you can see it's a green school ground, and the heart of it is the green school ground. So lots of great features. Of course, in every project, you end up going through a bit of value engineering, which means let's bring it into the budget envelope. We've had the big dream, here's the big vision. Now let's get down to brass tacks. And so we ended up with a majority of the site being able to be transformed. So I just wanted to give you a few little insights into some of the features. So of course, large group gathering. Topography is a main feature. Kids wanted a playing field, sand play, lots of trees, accessible pathways, interesting features like tunnels. These awesome play decks that are like Birgit Teichmann's signature, that are so amazing. And kids of all ages love them, and even seniors. And parkour, some swings, of course. This is all new to us. We don't typically have swings on school grounds in Canada. Water play. So here we are right now at the minute. Everything's dug up. The pipes are going in, all the infrastructure. Here's a drone shot for you to marvel at. I just can't even believe this is happening. Here's like on the ground, just like the kids are so excited about all these big trucks and diggers and things happening. And I just want to share with you briefly the success and lessons learned. Do I have 2 minutes? A minute? Any time left?
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay, okay, 1 minute. So I'll give you the top line here. Public engagement during COVID was a total flip-flop. We had to go completely virtual. And you know the power of having people in a charrette or a gathering where they can see images and everybody's face to face and sharing some food and chat, well, we had to kind of roll that out differently. So we did a lot of online, and we did a lot of these fireside chats, which invited the community in at different times. And we'll continue to do that, I think, even in, we'll mix the in-person with virtual because of inclusivity. The stormwater, I wanted to just say city approvals can be a big barrier, not barrier, but hurdle. I mean, we can all like bust through barriers, and we do find our ways. So we did find a way, but I would say stormwater management and all of that is very challenging to get approved. And even though you're improving the stormwater and infiltration, they want to know what you're going to do with the 100-year flood and if there's backup. And I think just the last thing to say is the school board is also using a lot of these techniques already now in new school builds, which is very encouraging. And our other board partners across the country are very interested in getting involved in this pilot. So our philanthropy is very excited about that. And I'll wrap it up there, Dominic.
Thank you, Heidi. That was fantastic. As you can see, when you get a chance to come out your PowerPoint and look at the chat, you've sparked a huge number of questions. So if you have a chance, in a good way, I think, in a very good way. So if you have a chance to start replying to some of them, that would be enormously appreciated.
Sure, yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing that, and what a great project to be a part of.
Oh, you're welcome.
Angela, I'd love to welcome you to the stage now. I think, Heidi, you'll need to stop screen sharing so that Angela can come.
Okay, did I stop? Oh, sorry. Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
So Angela Ribinaz is the director and founder of an organization called Patio Vivo in Chile, and has an amazing case study to share with us. So Angela, over to you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I am really very happy to be here with you, sharing our experience and learning also about the different school grounds and the way that you have to transform the schoolyards. First, I will present you a Patio Vivo, and then I will share with you one of our projects in Santiago. Patio Vivo is a non-profit organization, and we work so that all children in Chile grow up, play, and learn in contact with nature. And I'm sorry because my English is not so good, and I am a little nervous, but I will continue. We work in schools, and we transform school grounds in a learning landscapes. In the past 7 years, we have transformed more than 80 schoolyards around Chile. And our work is framed in a vulnerable context schools. This image shows the typical schoolyard in Chile. As you can see, it's totally flat and covered by asphalt. The school tend to silence the cultural background of the territory and the nature of the territory. And people also tend to believe that the learning process occurs only inside the classroom. But when you go a little more deep, you can see that, just to give some context, but for example, here in Chile, it's the social behavior. We know that more than 30% of our students say that they feel frequently attacked, which is once a month. We can think in a education, a quality of education, if the student feel insecure in the school. For other sides, in relation to the healthy lifestyle, Chile is the second country of OECD with the highest obesity rate. 54% of our students have obesity and overweight problems. And for other side, kids grow up with a few green space. We only had 4.5 square meter per habitant of green areas. So we notice that if we transform the schoolyard in a good learning landscape, we can give some solution to this problem. Provide daily access to green areas for the students, promote socio-emotional skill by giving them a space to feel welcome, and help them to develop healthy habits through active and free play. Our methodology is organized in this 4 big process. First is participation and evaluation with kids and teachers. Then we have the design process with a pedagogical view. After come the construction, and after we work also with the community in a pedagogical activation. Our projects have to be very fast because for the educational model, all the time we have 3 months for design and construction, and then we have other 3 months for the activation. That is a very fast project. Now I would like to present to you a case of learning landscape in Santiago. For example, this project, we have only 3 months for designs and the construction, so we have to be in the territory. This school is in Santiago. Santiago is located in the Central Valley of Chile, and we have a Mediterranean climate. The school is in the south of Santiago here. This schoolyard is used by 200 students for 6 to 8 years old. And in this school grounds, we have 1,600 square meters of asphalt. Then in the participation and evaluation process, first we observe that the schoolyard was only used during the recess time, and most of the students stayed in the shadow of the corridor, while just a few of them ran and played with a ball. Our evaluation method also consists in playing with the school teachers. In that way, we can connect them with their childhood. And from this scenario, we think together about the project's goals. We identify in this case that for this school was very important to promote the sense of belonging to their community and the dream of promoting the free and active play in nature. So this is in the design process. We have to organize this big and hard concrete space. So we designed circular structure with different size, depth, and height in order to promote different use. For example, little gardens to explore the plants, little hills to roll down, a sunken circular space to play and imagine that you're a fit, maybe, or to give a space to make a class in an open class area. We use bricks, a traditional construction material of the zone. In the construction process, in our projects, we are always seeking options that allow us to regenerate nature in this dead desert space. And for this reason, we remove the asphalt, move the soil, and we install carefully the bricks so that they can drain the water between the bricks. And we also use pavement like mulch and vegetable soil. We also plant different trees and plants in order to filter the air, cool down the temperature, and bring new colors to the schools. In this context, it's very important, the colors. It's something that we take care of this, but we don't like to put synthetic colors. We try to use always nature colors. In relation to the pedagogic activation, this point, I love this point, because in this point we play, and we play with the teacher, with principals, with the kids, with all the community. We play with the teachers because we need them to lose the fear that they have to a risky play. So, and they are habituated to play and use their body with the kids. In Chile, we don't use a lot our body expression to works in the schools. And then also we play with the inspectors, because we want they promote socio-emotional skills in their students through play. Inspectors, historically here in Chile, they used to be the person that say no for anything. And with these schoolyards and with a cultural play, we try to change this no cultural things to a yes cultural. I don't know if you understand this, but to change an attitude to be more positive. So in this line, we make a play revolution in the schools. Like results, we can see more free and active play, where students develop their movement and motor skills. Risky play, where the students develop autonomy, confidence, and courage. And natural play, where they explore nature and learn to love nature and bond with it. And also this photo, I took this photo, and it was a very beautiful moment for me, because it's a surprise when I arrived to see the schoolyard. And I saw this teacher, because they began to teaching with nature outside. And this is something like natural when you have a good space to be outside. And I want to share with you a quote of the school principal about this project. We have students who go home saying to their family, I can't skip school again, they will miss me. There is the sense of urgency to come to school. It is an important space for growth, openness, and possibilities. Here they can open themselves, express their emotion, and interact with others. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to continue with you sharing the ideas and learning about other projects.
Angela, thank you for that, and thank you for doing it in a foreign language as well. It's always so impressive when you run these global meetings and English is the working language, and you forget, how much it privileges people who speak English as their mother tongue. So that was fantastic, and a really brilliant case study, and complemented Heidi's case study very well. I think they went brilliantly together. There are also questions coming into the chat for you, Angela, so if you have a chance to go through and start to answer them. And Heidi, thank you for already beginning that with the questions that were directed to you. So what we've seen with those two examples, is two brilliant examples of the potential of green school grounds, of the power that they can have and the multiple benefits that can be accrued for students, for the school as an institution, for teachers, for the community around the school. And this is really what we're hoping our whole project will be able to do over the next 11 months, that we'll be able to, initially in the first phase, crowdsource some amazing ideas of programs and approaches and projects from around the world, and start to build this bank of great practice that we can then start to use to leverage new advocacy arguments to convince decision makers and people in positions of power that green school grounds are a really important component of progressive school reform moving forward because they have so many different benefits. So the slide that you can see on the screen now is this is the process that all of the partners together have outlined for next year. So what we envision is that there will be, we are building a community of practice here, and there'll be 6 online meetings in the first half of the year where we will talk about, initially arguments for green school grounds that we know have worked in different contexts. We'll then talk about some of the approaches and innovations which are underway. We'll then talk about some of the barriers that different members of the community have run up against or encountered. We'll look at a kind of geographic and other ways of curating and delineating our community of practice, to think about, what are specific arguments and barriers that exist in different contexts. And then in May, we'll do a kind of global research overview and start to focus on what it is that we know we need to know, but there isn't the evidence there for it yet. And then the final of the online programs will be looking at allies and partners and other advocates, people who, also have vested interest in this kind of agenda, and we could do more to build more as a community to build partnerships with. So this is the process that we've outlined. After the June meeting, there'll be a moment of kind of stock taking and reevaluation. And then we have funding, as Jamie said, from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to bring a significant part of the community of practice together for an in-person program in Salzburg. And hopefully, there'll be additional funding available that we can use to bring other, the whole community together at that point. And that's our kind of agenda for the year. What we would love to do now in this next part of the meeting is kind of get your collective wisdom on this approach. And so in the chat, Jamie has just shared a link to a Mentimeter, so a survey tool. And we've got 3 questions that we would love to run through with you. And as you start to answer the questions, we'll see the answers begin to appear on the screen up here. So if you take a minute to click through on that link and then start to fill in that. Jamie, I wonder if I could bring you back in at this point while we're waiting for answers to start to come through. And yeah, anything that I've missed or any additional comments you'd like to make or reflections on the presentations?
No, well, I'm really excited actually to even hear the evolution of the programs that Angela and Heidi were talking about, because I've known about them, and as we all, as the world changes and just not only pandemic, but climate, it's so amazing to see all of the resilience in the programs that we all run as well, that can adapt to address the challenges that we have. So it was really a joy to hear both of them present and dig in a little bit deeper, and knowing that this is what we're trying to get to, that every child has this experience, and it's not just, a pilot. And I know that, Heidi, that's not your limit, but, it's you have to start with the pilot somewhere. And then, then you build the interest and the excitement for that. And it gradually, what we want to see is that this becomes part of the culture of every school and every child's experience around the world. So exciting to see, see what's evolving with both of those programs and what's ahead of us. And there's a lot coming in on the Mentimeter, so Dom, I'm gonna let you handle that.
In the other launch event we did this morning, we had case studies from Barcelona and from Indonesia, and some interesting, I think, points of contact and similarities around the advantages for green school grounds, but then also some things like with both of your presentations that were unique to their specific contexts. This is fantastic. This is really rich set of answers coming through. So the second question on the Mentimeter relates to what we had envisioned as kind of the middle portion of next year's discussion. So thinking about the barriers that need to be overcome, or that people run up against when they're discussing green school grounds. So we would love to hear examples now. And maybe while the answers are coming in, Heidi and Angela, we could ask you each to share a little bit about any experiences you had around this topic with your programs. Was there opposition to the idea from teachers or from parents or from other people in the community? We had, this morning we had, this sort of funding arguments that green school grounds feel like a good idea, but it gets pushed down the funding agenda. And that was in the Australian and Western Australian context. But did you run up against any significant barriers with your programs? Angela, you've unmuted, so I wonder if I could put you on the spot and ask you first. Was there opposition? Was there opposition to the project?
Yes. Do you want I answer
Yeah.
now?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful.
It depends, but sometimes, always is the adults where we began to work with the schools. Always we can find people that are very engaged with the project, but another people that have a lot of fear. I don't know if in all the world the problem is the fear, but we sometimes have fear that the children play, and we have to begin to work with the teachers and principals and administrative people, the fear in the beginning of the program, because they really, I don't know, don't want to the children go up and then go down. So in the schools, the teachers, it's people that we have to, but it's beautiful because when you connect the adults with their childhood, they began to, they have the memories and a good moment with in this childhood outside with the people that they don't know. The fear to the others also, it's a big issue here. And but it's beautiful because we can work with the community, and then when the children began to use the space, this fear go down because they saw that the children don't have accidents and they are much more capacity to move. The problem is the adult projects the sedentary life to the children, and this is a big barrier for us when we began to work with a school. And
Thank you for that, Angela. Also some fantastic answers coming through in here. Heidi, is there anything you would add?
I think, I mean, all of what Angela said, it's like so resonates with the projects that we've done over many years. In particular, this project, I think, because of its scale, and there is an ambition. I mean, initially there were going to be 7 of these across the country, and then COVID hit, and people got nervous, the funders in particular. So we scaled it to a pilot of 1, but with a very good partner. And so I think when you have a trusted partner, you can still come up against kind of their projection as adults on what children need. And so what we tend to do is go to the children and ask them what their priorities and perspectives are. But in a very, intentional way, we work with them around empathy and talk with them about not just their own needs, but what they feel even simply their grandparents might expect in a new transformed space. And so I think the children's voices, I think, Angela, you were reaching out to this too. when you amplify them, it can catalyze so many different types of emotions and feelings about your own life and your own childhood, which you tend to forget in these kinds of instances because you're overwhelmed with fear of the unknown. So I think I'm just emphasizing, I think, some of that that was said.
I think that will resonate with many people in this group on this call. It does with me in the conversations that I've been in on this topic. The final question that we would love your feedback and collective intelligence and genuine criticism around is what's missing from this agenda. What are we not? What should we be giving more airtime to or more priority in the discussions that we'll be having? So things that came up this morning, for example, were around teacher training was a significant thing that came up that a lot of the group felt like it deserved its own topic. But other thoughts on what's missing from the agenda, keeping in mind that the structure that we have lends itself probably to 6 global online meetings and then the in-person. Student voice, excellent. Yeah, Jen, can you, if you flip back to the agenda?
I think the problem is if I flip back to the agenda, I'm not sure if people can give us answers.
So Laura, for your question, then the way that we've structured it, and this is a memory test, but there were 6 themes. So the first one was around the arguments for green school grounds and looking at global practice. The second was around programs and innovations that were out there already. The third was around barriers. The fourth was around different contextual considerations. So whether that's about climate or environment, ecosystem, whether you're urban or rural, space, things like that, safety. That was the fourth. The fifth was around research gaps. And the final one was looking at allies and partnerships. Thank you, Jamie. Just as I was floundering, it came in as a prompt. So thank you. So there's, and obviously those topics will have many kind of sub-threads within them, but we thought they were a useful way of trying to curate the time.
And I'm really appreciating all that's coming in thus far. I mean, the intent is that in the 6 months of conversation is helping to build the foundation that will be solidified while in person in Salzburg in November of next year. And all of this, I think, will be helpful information to help to craft what that international agenda is, including, like I just saw, and that's been one of my ideas as well, of like which star do we hitch to? Is it the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Is it WHO, the World Health Organization? Is it the Paris Climate Accord? I'm trying to figure out who else we might get in the room and be part of this work to help amplify the solutions that school ground greening can provide to all of the issues that they're collectively and individually facing. Heidi, you have your hand up.
I know. I don't know where the hand. Can you believe it? I did a whole interaction in virtual. I can't find things. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because the senior facilities manager, he's the top of his game at our board partner in Halton Region, basically responded to a youth call to action around climate change, and they presented a declaration to the council, and so now the senior leaders at the board are rallying around you know, I guess it's goal 13 for the SDGs, but they're embracing the SDG framework. So and he just said that like so eloquently at the last meeting we had with our funders, that this is the direction the board's going in. So you're right, it's a bit of trying to discern who's going to go what way. But if you listen to youth voice around the world right now, it's interesting in these pockets, you know, they can have quite a lot of influence, like they did with our school board partner.
Just looking at what happened in Glasgow last week, the kind of prominence of youth voice in every declaration and press release and announcement that came out of COP26. I think it represents a kind of tide change or sea change in ways in which young people are listened to. The final ask that we wanted to make of you all today, if that's okay, relates to, you know, again, this idea of crowdsourcing and collective intelligence, and the survey that we would like to run. So Jamie, could I pass to you to talk to that and then to close us out?
Yes, so thank you all for being with us for the last 52 minutes. The next big part of our project is really launching and having folks take a survey. So one of the things that that many of us have recognized is we actually do not have a real landscape scan of everything that's happening around the world in terms of school ground greening. We know, like the International School Grounds Alliance, we have lots of wonderful members who have, again, those inspiring stories and great projects that are happening, but we know that that's not all that's happening. And so we really are hoping, in order to have the most beneficial program overall and make sure that the agenda reflects what is needed around the world, to have a full, like a really rich survey response to the link that was just added into the chat. So whether it's you taking the survey, which we really hope that you will, or if you're sharing with your partners, or if you're sharing with your partners or others that you know doing this work around the world, both around outdoor learning and school ground greening, please, please, please do, so that we have a robust bit of information. So the survey will be officially closing, but probably lightly open afterwards, just in case we collect more data, but closing on the 14th of January. And the survey is meant to help structure the rest of the virtual sessions, as well as help us identify which case studies we're really going to highlight in video, written, and photo form moving forward. And if you are interested in participating in the process that Dominic was outlining, those 6 sessions, as well as, you know, hopefully and being eligible for attending in person, depending on how much funding we have. If we have more funding, or folks can pay their way a little bit to get to Salzburg, we can have even more folks with us in person. But you'll need to take the survey as a first step, and then there'll be an application process after that. Let's see, did I miss anything from the slide? I think that that's pretty much it, but really, really just welcome and encourage and ask you to share the survey. All of the partner organizations, so Salzburg Global Seminar, IUCN Nature for All, International School Grounds Alliance, and Children in Nature will be pushing this out over the next 6 weeks, next 2 months really, on all social media channels, so it'll be easy to share with your networks as well. I guess I just want to wrap up to say thank you to Heidi and Angela for joining us and presenting today, and all of you that have joined and spent this last hour with us. We really appreciate it. We had a good group in would have been the middle of the night for me in Chicago that joined us earlier today too. So this is our 2nd session. So we really appreciate all of your time. And I just want to say thank you again to our partners, again, Salzburg Global Seminar, International School Grounds Alliance, and IUCN Nature for All for helping to work on this project with us all. And I think just that this network of networks is part of what the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who is our funder, has been so interested in, of like how we all can work together with our different areas of reach and different expertise to really help grow school grounds and greening school grounds and outdoor learning into a movement. And again, that every child around the world is experiencing every day, because they all deserve it. I do want to plug Mary Jackson with Learning Through Landscapes is is the host for the International School Grounds Alliance conference that has moved a couple of times, but will be virtual on February 7th online. In February 7th, we'll be online, and Mary is going to, or she added in the chat already, the registration, well, the link where the registration will be very soon. So if you want to hear more about other projects that are happening around the world, and part of the International School Grounds Alliance, we'd love to see you as part of that. And did I miss anything, Dom, in our closing? No?
Oh, it's perfect.
Thank you all. We really appreciate your time today. And I'm excited. I'm feeling all this energy from this group. And I know that there's so much amazing knowledge here, and really, again, hopeful that you all will take the survey and share it and move forward with us in the process.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, many thanks.